Let's take a look now at the economic outlook. We're joined by Jameel Ahmad, Chief Analyst from GTC for that. Jameel, firstly, there's a major US Fed decision on the horizon. Can you tell us a bit about that and how it's affecting the global markets?
It is a terrifically historic event, actually, because we're looking at the first time in 4 years that the Federal Reserve, the US Central Bank, are going to cut interest rates. By all accounts, the interest rate cut this week is signed, sealed and delivered. The question to ask is how big will the interest rate cuts? And some would say it's a coin flip. It might be 0.5%, it might be 0.25%. My personal expectations is that we're going to hit 0.25% interest rate cut, but some are saying that the economic outlook is now slowing the United States to a degree that the Fed, the US Central Bank, should actually cut by more to provide some assurance to financial markets and so forth that the Fed are actually not falling behind the curve. My own expectations is actually if the Fed do go bigger than expected, that it might actually provide some unease that the Fed are accepting that maybe they got it wrong, they should have cut interest rates earlier, because we had to remember, this time 1 year ago, we were actually expecting the US Central Bank to cut interest rates first globally out of the developed central banks. But in fact, the European Central Bank have cut interest rates twice already this year. You've had the UK Central Bank, the Swiss National Bank, and so forth have all cut interest rates. But as we're coming towards the middle of September, the US Central Bank has not yet moved, but they will, by all accounts, move this week.
OK, well, speaking of historical events, we have seen a record price for gold, Jameel.
The gold hype train is just showing no signs of slowing down. It's hit milestone highs over unprecedented highs. In fact, the precious metal, which is gold, is up by 25% this year. It's now hit close to 2,600 US dollars. I actually thought for months that 2,500 would be the ceiling on this rally, but in fact, it does seem to be that investors are only within $10 or so pricing in 2,600. There's a number of different factors now that are driving this hype train. Lower interest rate policy worldwide, that's historically been a good driver for gold. You've got the Chinese economic data showing more concerning signs of maybe missing the government target of 5% this year, particularly the PBOC, which is the Chinese central bank, hold now 5% of its reserves in gold. Central banks worldwide are also purchasing gold at unprecedented levels. So you've got a number of different factors here that are really beating the drum. I just wonder if the US central bank do not cut as much as expected, or if they're not as aggressive over the future as what's already been priced into gold, whether we might sell off this rally because we've got so much news priced into gold. I just wonder if that ceiling is close to being hit.
Concentrating on the ceiling. Finally, Jameel, a big day for TikTok in the United States.
It is, and in fact, this has been coming down to the strained US and Chinese bilateral relations that have been in place now since the previous president, of course, President Trump, that would be. He is looking, and they are looking very close, US lawmakers, at TikTok for some of the accusations that you actually see quite commonly named at Chinese technology providers. Tracking the IP addresses, maybe user information and so forth. And this is what the lawmakers are going to be looking at later today. But I just feel that this feeds wider into the narrative of the strange US-Chinese trade relations and so forth, which are largely going to expect them to continue no matter what the outcome is to the November 2024 presidential elections.
Jameel Ahmad, Chief Analyst from GTC, thanks so much for your time. Well, meanwhile, the competition